Good morning. My name is Amber Braaten. I am sharing my thoughts on ethical decision making at the macro level, and this is my video presentation. Today, I am presenting an ethical dilemma faced at the organizational level within a nonprofit organization that provides housing assistance and case management services to low-income populations. The organization has received a major grant from a private foundation that is essential to sustaining and expanding services. However, the grant requires that services be prioritized for families with children and at least one employed adult, which effectively excludes unemployed individuals and households without children, including many who are chronically homeless. This situation presents an ethical dilemma because complying with the grant requirements conflicts with professional social work values, particularly the commitment to serve the most vulnerable populations. As a program administrator, I must determine how to proceed in a way that balances organizational survival with ethical responsibilities. Next, we'll look at values and ethical principles in conflict. Several core social work values are in conflict in this dilemma. The value of service and the ethical principle of social justice conflict with pressures related to organizational sustainability. While the funding allows the organization to continue serving many families, the exclusionary criteria undermines the commitment to equity and fairness. Additionally, the principle of dignity and worth of a person is challenged because the policy prioritizes individuals based on employment status and family composition, potentially devaluing those who face systemic barriers such as disability, discrimination, or long-term unemployment. The populations impacted. The policy disproportionately impacts chronically homeless individuals, unemployed adults, and households without children. Many of these individuals experience intersecting barriers, including mental health conditions, disabilities, and structural inequities that limit access to employment. While families who meet the grant criteria may benefit from expanded services, excluded clients may experience increased housing instability and prolonged homelessness. How this is relevant to the NASW Code of Ethics. Several sections of the NASW Code of Ethics are applicable to this dilemma. Section 1.01 emphasizes a commitment to clients, particularly those who are vulnerable and marginalized. Section 3.07 highlights the responsibility of social work administrators to ensure that organizational policies align with ethical standards. In Section 6.04, it calls on social workers to engage in social and political action to promote access to resources, and it addresses social injustice. Together, these standards suggest that ethical administration requires both organizational accountability and advocacy for excluded populations. Then we look at Reamer's model, ethical decision making. Reamer's ethical decision making model provides a structured framework for addressing this dilemma. The first step is identifying the ethical issues, which include the exclusion of the vulnerable populations and potential mission drift. The second step involves reviewing relevant ethical standards, particularly the NASW Code of Ethics. The third step is considering all stakeholders, including clients, staff, funders, and the organization itself. The fourth step involves exploring possible courses of action, such as full compliance, refusal of the grant, or conditional acceptance with mitigation strategies. The fifth step requires examining the potential consequence of each option. Refusing the grant could jeopardize services, while uncritical compliance could harm vulnerable clients. The final step is making and documenting a decision that reflects ethical reasoning. Roles and responsibility of the social worker. As a program administrator, my role extends beyond policy implementation to ethical leadership and advocacy. Social workers and administrative roles have a responsibility to challenge policies that cause harm, educate funders about unintended consequences, and advocate for inclusive practices that align with our professional values. And my plan of action for harm reduction strategies involve accepting the grant while actively working to minimize harm to excluded populations. This includes advocating for flexible eligibility criteria, pursuing supplemental funding sources, establishing referral partnerships, and collecting outcome data to demonstrate the impact of exclusionary policies. These strategies support both the ethical practice and organizational sustainability. The broader implications. Ethical decisions at the macro level influence organizational trust, staff morale, and long-term client outcomes. Repeated ethical outcomes can lead to mission drift, erode public trust. And in conclusion, ethical leadership in social work requires balancing pragmatism with advocacy to ensure that organizational survival does not come at the expense of professional integrity. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.